You put out there last year in April of 2023 verbatim, because I think this is the best way to start for a Phone Warriors podcast, what this tweet was. And so it goes, when I am cold calling and I get hung up on, what is the first thing that I do? Call right back and say, I think we were disconnected. Half the time the recipient of the call is so embarrassed they hung up on you, right? They were actually engaged in the conversation. The other half of the time, they just start to hang up again. And then what do? You move on. So when you said that public, like what did you mean by that?
I meant exactly what I said. I think that if you think about it from property owners' perspectives, they're probably getting called a lot of times by a lot of people. Today, especially publicly available information is so readily available. You go online, you get somebody's home number, you get their cell phone number, you get their shoe size, you can get anything about somebody. So people who own property probably getting inundated by calls from folks. And the instinct is, oh, let me just hang up. And they hang up and don't expect the person to call back again. And I don't know why I did it, but one time after I got hung up on, I just called right back and I just said, hey, we must have been disconnected. And I think the owner I was talking to must have felt so embarrassed that he hung up on me that we actually ended up having a pretty good conversation. So I said, wow, that worked great. So I'm going to do that from now on. And I will tell you that literally half the time when you get hung up on, I call right back. And half the time somebody will talk to me. The other half of the time, they just slam the phone down again. But then you'll call them again in 2 or 3 months when you get back around to them. But that is a technique that has actually worked really well for me. And I think that getting hung up on it never really bothered me that much. And I think it's important because that kind of thing happens a lot in our industry. But I think understanding the probability of success is something that makes it okay. I sell buildings primarily in Manhattan, and in Manhattan, south of 96th Street, which is the prime part of Manhattan, there are 27,649 buildings. The average turnover rate of that stock is about 2.6% in the average year, and that's been the case for 40 years. And about half the stuff that goes on the market actually will trade. So that's telling you that only 1 out of every 20 properties is the owner going to say, yeah, I'm thinking about selling. So if you go into a calling program and you know that the probability is 19 out of 20 people are going to either say no to you or hang up on you, you have to anticipate that level of success. So if I'm making my calls and I get hung up on 19 times in a row, I feel awesome because the probability the next one is going to be a yes is very, very high. So I think it's important to have the right perspective when you're making these calls.